This is Meet the Movie Press. It's September the 20th, 2019. On the show today, Moviepass-ed, R.I.P., The Princess Bride remake rumours, Home Stallone, for no apparent reason, and box office and reviews. Stay tuned. This is Meet the Movie Press. It's September 2019, September 20th, 2019. My name is Simon Thompson. You can find me on social media at Showbiz Simon on Instagram and Twitter. With me is Demetri Panos. Demetri, who are you?
Hey, movie fans.
Where can we find you?
Right here on Popcorn Talks, Meet the Movie Press, and also the rejuvenated anatomy of a movie is back.
Scott Menzel, who are you? Where can we find you?
Hi there. Glad to be back. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at @theotherscottm. Go over to weliveentertainment.com.
Lots to talk about on the show this week. We took a rest last week, which was well-deserved,
Yes.
so much appreciated. Let's talk about Moviepass, first of all, this week. Moviepass died, R.I.P. Moviepass might be coming back.
Why?
WTF.
Yeah.
So Moviepass won't stay dead. There are so many models like this that have kind of gone by the wayside in the last 18 months. There's Moviepass. There was Cinemia, which also died. And yet AMC and Regal have their own programs which are thriving. And Cinema as well. Yeah. So, what is Moviepass doing wrong that the others are doing right?
It's not that they're doing anything wrong.
Right.
It's just that they haven't built a brand loyalty. You know, they started out pretty strong, but what happened was they kind of fucked people. You don't think so?
No. I don't. Yes and no. Because I worked for them.
Yeah.
And when I was there, it was well intentioned.
Yeah.
And in fact, it was all about making nicey nice with the exhibitor. Exhibitors had tried this prior. Marcus being one of them. AMC had tried, but the irony of it all is AMC was Moviepass's pilot theater chain.
Right.
And it was very hard to get the technology which Moviepass had. So with the time that I was there, we were making goodwill with the exhibitor. We had a white paper report that basically said subscription will help boost attendance and it will get people to see a variety of movies, not just one movie.
Yeah.
And it was working. It was when this gentleman Farnsworth and the other man who started Netflix and Redbox, Mitch Lowe, came in, and they didn't give a crap about the exhibitor. In fact, they went to war with the exhibitor. And the exhibitor basically was like, well, F you. We don't need you.
Yeah.
Cinemark was the first on the scene state-wise to do their subscription program. And then AMC was working hard to do theirs. So when you have a brand loyalty to a theater chain, that's fine. Moviepass, once Mitch Lowe took over, it just went. They made the wrong decisions. They were more about subscribership.
Yeah.
And if you remember too, when they hit the million, they took that famous picture. I believe it was Mitch Lowe and Farnsworth in front of an AMC theater because AMC more or less said "F you, we'll take your money."
Yeah.
And that picture has not aged well.
See, I don't think the average cinema goer actually has a brand loyalty. I think it's more of a convenience. Convenience and showtimes seems to be something that when I talk to people outside of the bubble, that will always dictate where they go. Scott?
I also just think that the way that Moviepass handled everything, from a consumer point of view...
well, they didn't handle anything, which is the problem.
Which is the problem, but like when they started out, I had Moviepass from the very beginning.
Yep.
And it was like, I think it was like $24.95, which was that spot that was very similar to that Blockbuster thing that they had way back in the day with the swap out the rentals. And I remember when I had that, how happy I was with the service because I felt like it was a good price point and it had the availability of all these movies.
Yeah.
And then what happened was the company seemed like they got greedy. They wanted more and more, and they weren't getting the type of numbers that they wanted.
Yeah.
So then they did that ridiculous promo for $9.99. And then even, not knowing the business model, said, how are they making money off this? This seems ridiculous because it doesn't even cover one movie ticket. And therefore, all the sales got boosted after they did that promotion. I remember everyone and their brother had MoviePass at that point. And then when they realized that they weren't making money off that, then they tried to like do these selective showtimes and these movies, and like you only can see like 1 or 2 movies that were out, and they were only playing at certain theaters, and there was only certain showtimes. The whole thing just like was a cluster.
I mean, I subscribed when it became the $9.99 thing. That's when I got on board. And I'll be honest with you, even though I probably used it 6 times a year, I still paid my $10 a month.
Right.
I would gladly do that because a couple of times a year I would get a $15 ticket, and I had it in my wallet and I could use it if I needed to, and the show times were convenient. And as soon as it stopped being convenient and I realized that actually the movies that I might want to see with MoviePass simply weren't available, there was absolutely no point in me having the convenience of a MoviePass. And I think that's where they really kind of faltered.
Yeah, and the other thing too is, again, because I was working on the exhibitor side, what a lot of people don't know is we were making deals with the exhibitors, okay, where we were working out like buying group tickets and the such. So every theater chain has a group sales line, and if you buy so many tickets, you get a discounted rate. You can buy your tickets at Costco. So we were looking to try to do things like that, and at the same time, we're also working with point of sales ticketing, so that we can go straight into a company's ticketing, so they can pick their seat on the phone. Like they were going places. I mean, I had 6 exhibitors in queue for us to just get on board, and people were buying into it because they didn't have the technology to do it themselves. Once then it came to the $9.99. That's the Mitch Lowe era. He got rid of everybody. $9.99 comes in.
So is the main problem by the fact that they were working from an exhibitor point of view and not a customer point of view? When I was there, we were working for both because we wanted people to get this value. Because you said $24.99. We had a tiered system too, because $24.99 only got you 2D. But if you wanted IMAX or 3D, it was like $30, $35 a month. And we got people doing that. MoviePass knew going in that this is going to be a buffet kind of thing. You were going to have your overeaters. But otherwise, there are people who weren't going to overeat. It just needed more time to develop. But once Mitch Lowe and this Richard Farnsworth gentleman, or I forget his first name, Farnsworth gentleman came in, they just said, F the exhibitor. They didn't care. And all they cared about was bringing up the subscribership. And once they said F the exhibitor said, well, F you. Well, of course, we're not going to make a deal with you, but we will take the full price on the ticket. At your $9.99. You're devaluing the ticket, but we're more than happy to pay. We're more than happy to take your $20 for when you go to IMAX. And that was the beginning of the end for that. A lot of people in the chat having thoughts on this. Thank you for being part of the show. Jack Dennis, RIP MoviePass. I got a lot out of it. Lick My Love Pump. MoviePass was a great idea on paper. It's just that the execution didn't play like the paper. Glamory. I like AMC A-List. Jack Dennis, without MoviePass, there is no AMC A-List. Zeno Hour, I give MoviePass this. It disrupted the business and forced theaters to create similar and better services. I think that's actually a really good point, because I think a lot of the chains kind of took the customers for granted, and I certainly get a lot more emails from the chains that I go to ask me to incentivize my visits, to upgrading concessions, or getting first dibs on tickets or free tickets, which I had never got previously. So I think it has kind of give them the kick up the arse that they actually needed to kind of make that marketplace a bit more competitive.
It did. It opened up this door. But the other thing too, that one thing that a lot of people don't know is that what we were also doing for the exhibitor is providing analytics. MoviePass had a logarithm, and now AMC can too. But what AMC can't do is, if somebody goes to a Cinemark theater, AMC has no idea. MoviePass knew exactly what theater, what time, what day you went to. And they would know if you went to another theater, and we could pretty much figure out why you went to that other theater, even though this Theater A was closer to you. So we had a wealth of knowledge that, from a marketing standpoint, the exhibitor would love to have. You know, we could even pinpoint it down to people drove an extra 5 miles because the theater had a lounge and it was $5 beer night. That's why they went over there instead of going to the theater that's closest to them.
Yeah.
This kind of marketing for a theater, for an exhibitor, when they can go, oh, well, we noticed you went to a horror movie over there. How come you didn't come to us? Well, we have an Annabelle movie or a Conjuring. Here, get a discount on popcorn. Come and see Conjuring over here. So Moviepass was a data analytics company as well. And that wasn't being sold enough once Mitch Lowe took over. When we were there, like we could get into a theater chain's loyalty program, and we could see how loyal that customer really was.
You see, it's really interesting, that analytics side of things, because I think if a lot of people knew that was going on,
they'd be even more leery.
They'd be even more disinclined to be part of the program.
Oh, yeah.
Because in this day and age, people hate their data being used in that way and sold in that way.
But again, if you're thinking that A-List or Cinemark or Regal, whoever's doing what, like anytime you sign up for a loyalty program, you know exactly how many times you're going to the theater.
I want to say, as someone who has who at one point had every single one of these services.
Oh, you had Cinemania too?
Yes, I had that one. I had AMC Stubs or whatever it is, and now I have Regal. And I will say that Regal is by far the best. Regal has no blackout periods whatsoever. So I was at Rambo last night, and if I wanted to see Ad Astra right afterwards, I could have. You can see multiple movies on the same day. No other one gives you that option.
AMC can.
But it only gives you 3 a week. You literally can go every day, and if I wanted to live in the movie theater for every single day, I can go see every single movie like over and over again.
You see, I think that's actually, I know you're going to get sort of, the people who will overeat on these kind of things.
Yeah, of course.
But those people who will overeat on the movies have to eat and drink.
Right.
And it's concessions to this day that movie theaters make their largest margins on.
You're right, and I'm so glad you brought that up.
So if you can keep them in the theater for 8 hours, they're going to have 2 lots of meals, they're going to have 2 or 3 sodas, and your margins are going to be fucking huge.
That was part of our analytics.
Yeah.
Because when the person who had Moviepass came up to the box office, they weren't reaching into their wallet. So they were more inclined, if they were a concession buyer, and we could figure that out, if they were a concession buyer with Moviepass, they were more inclined to do the upgrade. If they weren't a concession buyer, they were more inclined with Moviepass because they didn't spend anything up front to go up to the concession and buy popcorn, Twizzlers, and Coke. That was one of the sells to the exhibitors, is to say, we're not only going to get people... The cool thing about Moviepass, too, is you can only see a movie once. So the Star Wars fan can only use Moviepass once in Star Wars. If they wanted to go back, they'd have to go see another movie, right? It made people see other movies other than the tentpoles because they had it.
Yeah, that is true.
So, but it's like a gym membership. People really, really go a lot. Some people overuse it, and then other people don't. That's what Moviepass was hoping, but a lot of people love going to the movies.
I think you're in the wrong room for gym membership.
Love that.
I think just a little look at all of us. Realise we're not the gym membership kind of guys. Not even to subscribe and not use it. It's just like... A what? A what? Okay, let's talk in the chat. Jody, since movies are on digital 6 weeks after hitting theatres and a few weeks later on DVD, why should I go to the movies in less than 3 months? I can watch it at home. I mean, a lot of people are actually taking that point of view. Zeno Hour, my Swiss bank account doesn't think that I'm a bastard. Lick My Love Pump. AMC theatres aren't as widespread as Regal. No, absolutely. And there is a lot of... I mean, they're
the number 1 theater chain in the world.
Yeah.
They're the highest... I mean, as far as not gross, but from a location.
They don't. I'm telling you though, they don't have as nice of theaters. I mean, I went to the Regal last night in Simi Valley of all places, and it's like that theater is so nice compared to most AMCs. Like that, it puts most of the theaters at AMC Century City to shame.
Really? I'll tell you why I think that is a part of that is because a lot of these cinemas, these movie theaters in these areas are not attended as much as places like Century City, so they have less wear and tear.
Yeah. Because, I mean, they had every single theater has the recliner seats in
that
one. Every single one. My mom went in, she hasn't been to a movie theater since the last Rambo movie.
Really?
The last Rambo movie. She went in there, she's like, what is this? She's like, wait, you pick your seats now? And she saw these seats, she's like, oh, you don't have those crappy rocking back and forth seats? I'm like, nope, it's all nice now.
Oh my God, that's incredible. Yeah. We will get to Rambo later on. A couple more points on this before we move on to the next subject. Anthony Fortuna, Movie Pass was unlimited, and I saw Star Wars 3 times until they changed it. Sorry, Anthony. Joe Buckton, that's basically what the Cineworld card here in the UK is. See as many films in a month as you want. Once you've seen 2, you've saved money on 2 single tickets. Absolutely, Joe.
And you know who Cineworld owns? Regal.
Interesting. Joe, by the way, is a new viewer, listener to the show. Discovered the podcast quite recently and decided to come back.
There you go.
So
thanks for that, Joe.
I mean, I'm really pleased that your standards are so low, Joe. That's awesome. We appreciate it. Jack Dennis, you pay for the big screen and the communal experience at Jody. You do, Jack, but sometimes that communal experience, it's not so great. Anyway, let's talk about the next story this week. Inconceivably, they're threatening to remake The Princess Bride. Okay, we're going to get to this story in just a second, but one thing that really annoyed me about this story this week was everybody referring to The Princess Bride as Norman Lear's Princess Bride. Because Norman Lear had done an interview with, I think it was Variety, and it was mentioned The Princess Bride and the possibility of it being remade. And he was basically a backer for the movie. He got an exec producer credit, but it is not Norman Lear's. Nobody ever thinks that it's a Norman Lear movie. The people involved in the movie did not consider this to be a Norman Lear movie. No. It is not Norman Lear's The Princess Bride. Now we're past that. So, The Princess Bride, the remake. I mean, there is going to be a Broadway show. We know that is already something that is in the works. There has been talk about sequels and spin-offs over the years. To be honest with you, I'm not against remakes per se, but there are some movies that just capture lightning in a bottle that you cannot replicate. It's just the stars aligning. And I think The Princess Bride is a really good example of that. Scott, first of all, on this.
I also just go back to my argument that I make from time to time, and it's a recipe of the time. It's a film of the time period in which it was based, and not a
hit as well. By the way,
it was not a hit. And I think very much like a Back to the Future, this is something that needs to be left untouched.
Yeah. I mean, Demetri, your thoughts on this?
Again, it's why that. I mean, there are so many movies that you can remake that people barely know, sort of know that you can remake. Or not something like Princess Bride. There's just no need. There really isn't. When you hit perfection, there's no. You can't. You're not going to make it better, and it's only a downside at this point. I mean, why? There's just no. Like you said, lightning in a bottle. The movie was lightning in a bottle for so many reasons. It was casting, number one, right?
Yeah.
You took like a Carrie Ellis at the time. Nobody really knew Robin Wright. Made a star out of her. Fred Savage. I know he had the show, but Peter Falk. And then you had Rob Reiner directing. You had Christopher Guest. You had such an amazing cast. Andre the Giant, Billy Crystal. You're not going to get that cadre. You're not going to get that gravitas, so to speak, in here now.
It's the casting, and also the script is amazing. And I think even if you had pretty much the same script, you wouldn't get the people to deliver that script in the same way. That would have the same impact. It was interpretation of the text. It was just the whole, I mean, as you mentioned, the timing. You cannot replicate elements of that in another environment, and it'd be even as good without it seeming like a copy.
Yeah.
Which is, to that point is like, well, why would you do that? Why would you replicate something that you already have a great version of? I just don't quite understand that.
It's like trying to remake E.T. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
You know, like it's like not only is it a film that was like a remarkable feat of its time, but it's like the way that it was crafted and put together with, like you were saying, the script and the cast.
Yeah.
There's just nothing you can do to make it better.
No.
So why bother?
I feel the same way. It's just like trying to remake Psycho.
Yeah.
Actually, in Gus Van Sant's support, I actually do not hate the shot-for-shot remake of Psycho. I think that gets an unfair amount of shit. But, I mean, I love Psycho. But it's the same fucking movie.
It exists.
It's the same movie. Yeah. It's exactly the same. So if you like the first one, it's kind of difficult to not like the second one.
And don't forget, when we talk about Princess Bride era, that of the time, that too was the VHS boom. Was really beginning. So a lot of people found that on home entertainment. So that's how it became so big and so beloved around the world. We don't have that now, but again, there's just no need to redo this. Just find a B movie that people don't really know about that you can redo and get them on board, and maybe they'll see the original.
But for some people, that is The Princess Bride. For some people, I mean, I remember seeing that movie theater in a movie theater in the UK, and I was literally one of like 3 people in that movie theater, an opening week. And I knew nothing about the movie. It had a small ad in the local paper, and I miss those days. And I went to see it, and I discovered this movie. And it is the movie that I buy for other people more than any other movie. When they go like, buy me a movie that I won't have seen, and it's always The Princess Bride. And every single time they're like, how did I not know about this movie? It's awesome. And I'm like, I know. It's incredible.
And one thing I do have to also point out about Princess Bride is that, unlike a lot of movies of a particular decade, Princess Bride holds up. Now,
very, very well.
There is a lot of movies, and maybe we'll discuss it later, that you can go back and watch now. That are of a particular decade. That you watch and you're like, whoa. People actually thought this was good. Even some really popular movies, which I'll talk about later.
Okay. Rambo. We're going to get to Sylvester Stallone in a moment. I want to get to the chat on this. A lot of people with thoughts on The Princess Bride. Can studio remake movies that weren't good and then remake it to make it better than the original movie? I think that's really where a lot of studios should concentrate. Yash saying, I don't mind a remake because I will have the original. No, absolutely. We still have the original movie. It's not a replacement.
It doesn't go away.
But also, I think as audiences, we should really demand better movies rather than crap taking up screens that original content could actually be placed on. Zeno Hour Simon, first removing Spider-Man from the MCU, now floating out the idea of a Princess Bride remake. Is Sony trying to become the most hated movie studio in the world? I don't think they're doing that deliberately, but I just think they're looking for something that might make them some money. Jody, Simon, do you think studios want to remake movies because they think the younger audience will see it if the actors are people they know rather than actors that they're not familiar with? Do you know what? I don't know. I disagree with that. I think a lot of people discover movies that there are very few movie stars these days. There are very few movies that are driven by who is in them over the story or the look. I think we are more about optics. I think we're more about narrative than we have ever been, which to me, it makes me wonder more why we're doing remakes.
Yes.
Because we've seen those before.
And to that point too, though, is that you can show a younger person the original Princess Bride, and they're still going to enjoy it, even if they don't know who the actors are.
100%.
100%.
Like all my nephews and all my sort of god kids, I always give them Princess Bride, and they have no idea who any of these people are, and they still love it. They couldn't give a shit about Andre the Giant. Literally couldn't care less.
But they love the story.
But they love the story, and they love him in it. Let's talk about Lick My Love Pump. I would get why they would remake Howard the Duck because it sucks. Take that back, Lick My Love Pump. But leave masterpieces alone. Absolutely. To some of us, Howard the Duck is A masterpiece. Sky Palace and Princess Bride remake, lol, laughable. Even if they had Kenneth Branagh directing with Martin McDonagh and Judd Apatow scripting starring Timothée Chalamet and Saoirse Ronan, it still wouldn't work. Yeah, you just cannot capture that lightning in a bottle. No. Okay, we touched on this already. Let's move on to the next story. Sylvester Stallone wants to make... Of course he does. Wants to make Tango and Cash too. But Kurt Russell has doubts. Kurt is not alone in that. I love Tango and Cash. I remember seeing that movie in movie theaters and having an amazing time. It is not a buddy movie that has aged well.
No, it has not.
But it's still excellent. I love it.
I saw it on cable yesterday.
Oh, wow.
It is what it is.
It's great. It's a great movie.
It is what it is, but I also heard he wants to do Cobra 2.
Yeah.
Well, he's doing that as a TV series. That would be a TV series that he's going to do with Robert Rodriguez.
That would be.
Actually, Nikki Novak of LAFCS asked that question.
Oh, really?
Yep, she was the one who got that out of everybody. You were talking about movie stars. And again, I'm only bringing up my mom on this because of the fact that she is someone who has always supported me being part of this industry, but has not been a huge fan of everything has come out of the industry in the last 5 to 10 years.
Sure.
But she is someone who grew up with movie stars. Mm-hmm. And she will go see any movie that Sylvester Stallone has made. Mm-hmm. And that is why we went to see Rambo last night. And to this point is people like Sylvester Stallone still have a very loyal following.
Yeah.
And people go see them. Now, granted, it is usually people in the theater who are like 40, 50 and above, but still, that's a big chunk of the audience. And ones that go really are overlooked nowadays, I feel.
And I'll be honest with you, I mean, that part of the audience is you state the age range, is kind of dying out.
Yes.
You know, there aren't that many, and there aren't that many that are regular moviegoers.
Right.
And also, I think audiences now are more fickle about their stars.
Oh,
yeah.
You can be in favour one February, and by the next February, people are like, you're so passé. It's like 12 months. I was having this conversation last night. I was at the Judy premiere at the Academy, and we were talking about the longevity of movies and the longevity of movie stars, and how you could have a couple of movies like Renee Zellweger and Judy. You can have a couple of movies that don't do well, and Hollywood puts you out to pasture. But you can have 2 or 3 over 2 years that do pretty well, and that will sustain you for 5 years. And it's audiences are the same. They get a lot more fickle, a lot more selective about what they will, especially with the price of theatre tickets, put their hands in their pockets and buy a ticket for.
I agree, but February to February, you're giving it too much credit. It's February to March. I mean, it really.
Yeah.
And then Hollywood nowadays we've talked about this here. They burn them out.
Yep.
Like Tiffany Haddish is in every single movie, and Jennifer Lawrence was in every single movie. And
if you don't like these people and they're in movies all the time, you are less inclined to go to the movie theatres.
Absolutely.
I mean, my mother is in her 70s, and whenever she goes to the movie theatres, it's very infrequently. It takes a lot to get my mother to go to the movie theatre. Yeah. And even then, she's kind of not that bothered. So I think this audience that the industry has relied on is so less inclined, favourite actor or not, to actually fork out $17 a year to go and see a movie than other people.
Yeah. But that's why that's why movie stars, to that credit, are so important. Because, everyone was shocked that Book Club made so much money. But that was a movie that was made towards a specific demographic.
I still like that movie.
That most people don't actually, we don't get movies for anymore.
Yeah, but Palms filled
miserably. Yeah, but Palms fell miserably because it looked like a knockoff and it wasn't marketed properly.
Yeah, nobody knew that movie was coming out.
Yeah, and it didn't have as good of a cast either. You know, I mean, again, this is also the problem with Hollywood, right? Like, you have an idea and it works. And then what happens is everyone kind of wants to come out with a copycat and say, oh, we can do this too. And it's like, no. You know, like, how many movies do you think now that Hustlers has become this big are people going to try to make something like Hustlers, and they're not going to do as well?
They're going to remake Showgirls.
Well, we had this spate at the end of the 90s and early 2000s where it was like old guy movies.
Right.
Old guy movies.
Yes,
Get old guys doing young guy shit.
Right.
Just do it. Whether it's space, whether it's riding motorcycles, whether it's going on a road trip, whether it's getting proctology exams, whatever it is. It's like, it was old guy movies.
Yes.
And then it was old lady movies.
Yes.
Get old ladies in stuff. And it's kind of really, I don't know why this cycle, who's paying these people who go to the movie theater and go, saw a great movie about strippers, we should do some movies about strippers. Great. You're now the EVP of a studio. How the fuck did that happen? Anyway, there you go. Xeno Hour, Simon, did you see David Morrell, the creator of Rambo, slammed Last Blood and said that he was embarrassed to have his name attached to it? Getting back to Sylvester Stallone. I did not see that.
I didn't see that. Did you?
No.
I didn't hear about it.
I did not see that.
I mean, to be honest with you, I'm quite surprised they made another Rambo movie because I wasn't a fan of Rambo. I really thought that was a weak link in the chain of the franchise. Not that Rambo 3 was exactly a great movie, but going back and watching it now, it's very funny. No, I mean, when you create a series like this, when you create a franchise, your name, you sign up to have your name attached to it so that you can have rights, get residuals, get some sort of money from it.
It was his book, I mean, First Blood.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's kind of that's the deal that you do, but you don't necessarily, unless your deal involves this, maintain any control over it. Right. So I'm not entirely surprised that he's not particularly happy with what they're doing with Rambo, but he signed that away.
Yeah, he gets a check for it.
So yeah, he'll still take the money, sure. I'm sure, when the check turns up.
Absolutely.
You know, USPS doing their job. Not always on time, but always delivering? Question mark should be the slogan. But yeah, no, I didn't see that story. But I'm not entirely surprised that obviously what Rambo is now is very different to what Rambo started out as.
Well,
very
and
different.
As you know, as a book, too. Spoiler alert if you haven't read the book, but Rambo dies.
You've only had 30 odd years.
Yeah, well, he dies at the end, and they actually filmed the original First Blood with him dying at the end, and they changed it. Rightfully so, and I'm sure
they're very happy about that decision.
Absolutely. So, and you know, and I didn't mind the last Rambo movie.
I didn't
when
either.
It came out in 2008. I thought it was better than expected. You know, Stallone definitely is a star. He projects himself as one too. Like, you know, when it was Expendables, or it could have even been Rambo. I mean, he knows when he's with fans. Yeah. You know, we had exhibitors do meet and greets with him, and he does this pose. He wears the sunglasses, and everybody comes up to him. It's like, come up, picture, next person, please. Yeah. And you gotta give it to him. I mean, he's been doing this for so long. He kind of knows what he's doing, and he's had
a stronger career than, say, someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger in a weird way.
It's funny
because Schwarzenegger has tried to make so many like remakes or reboots of his movies. I mean, the Terminator franchise, which was like the biggest ones, and those have been like such failures. I'm still worried about this new one doing well. But like Stallone has had, his fair share of hit and misses. Yep. But he's been able to overcome it a lot better than
Van Damme, Seagal.
Yeah, and I had this conversation. Look at the big three were Stallone, Willis, and Schwarzenegger. Those are the big three in the mid '80s, late '80s, and you know. Schwarzenegger took a different path. I can kind of forgive him because he got into politics, okay? So that took him out of movies for an extraordinarily long time. It's hard to kind of get back in. Where Stallone never gave up on movies, neither did Willis, but Willis kind of took a different track. My friend and I were talking, what was the last like balls to the wall action movie that Willis did, and all I can think about was the last Die Hard movie.
That horrible remake.
Death Wish.
Yeah, that horrible movie.
That was bad.
Yeah, I know.
Don't say that.
Yeah.
The right will find you.
Yeah.
Don't say that.
But they didn't stay like Stallone. Even in the 90s, you know, he tried his hand at comedy.
Yeah.
Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, Oscar.
Yeah.
So didn't Schwarzenegger. But he did it to success.
Yeah.
Willis, to an extent, success. Stallone knew where his bread and butter is in Rocky, Rambo. And that's what I'm going to do.
Oscar was another one.
That's what I mentioned. Oscar.
Right.
Yeah.
But no, interesting fact about Stop or My Mum Will Shoot. Sylvester Stallone is now older than Estelle Getty was in Stop or My Mum Will Shoot.
That's a great... Wow.
Apparently.
Oh, boy. Howdy.
I read that yesterday. Which made me want to turn to dust.
Yes.
Because I saw that movie in
Boy,
theaters.
howdy.
Yeah.
So did I.
Me too.
So she's dead now. So let's talk about a little bit more in the chat on Sylvester Stallone. Lick My Love Pump. Sly is shaking the rear end that God gave him. God bless him. Jack Dennis. After Creed came out to great reviews in box office, it was all but guaranteed that Stallone's old franchises would be revived. Xenowow. My first Rambo movie was Rambo 3. Then I saw Rambo 2 shortly afterwards, so I was surprised. Yes, it's a very different movie. Rambo 3 was quite a different animal. And a lot of people are saying they have nothing on Rambo. I'll be honest with you. I am still a big fan of the Rambo franchise, and I will catch this movie at the weekend. But it is not what Rambo started out as. No. And the whole "don't push me" thing that was kind of around for the first two movies has been lost a long time ago, and this is a very different character. So it feels less like Rambo. It just feels like Sylvester Stallone in an action movie to me, but we'll see what happens. But it's all about the Benjamins. Other news this week, Funko movie is coming from Warner Brothers Animation, landing Pixar and Disney filmmakers. Funko is the new Lego.
You know, I was hoping after the second Lego movie didn't do well that we would be done with these for a while.
Yeah. No, turns out not.
I guess.
Turns out not. I'm actually quite surprised. As much as I do love what Funko do as a company, I really appreciate the graphic design of the characters they create. It seems to be a never-ending line of characters, but that's fine. I'm just kind of wondering what they're going to do unless they have new characters they create for the movie. Otherwise, they're using IPs from other movies to create a narrative, which is exactly the same as the Lego movie, which people are already over.
Yeah. Warner Brothers seems so desperate in their animation studios to actually come up with something.
Yeah.
I mean, it really, you know, that first Lego movie was really great and really creative and really different. And then they just freaking beat it to death with like 3 movies in a span of 2 years? Right. And I was just so sick and tired of it by the time that second one came out, the Lego Movie 2.
It wasn't a great movie. I caught it on a plane recently. It was not a great movie.
No. And you know, the response was not that strong for it. And like you said, Simon, this is just, there's no original story to be had with Funko. You know, there was a documentary that came out that didn't even do anything.
Yeah.
A couple years ago, I remember seeing it, and that went nowhere.
Yeah, why? Again, I somewhat understand the popularity of Funko, and it has grown within the past 5 years. But I remember when they started showing up at Disney, and people just started collecting them like crazy. There was just one more thing I just couldn't get into. Collecting wise, to give Disney more of my money, I buy select ones. But ultimately, though, I look at Funko and I'm like, I still ask myself, why?
Well, you know how they started, right? They started out with the bobbleheads.
Right.
And then they went into the Funko Pops.
Yeah.
Which I think was interesting because they started out with classic. I watched this documentary. I thought it was fascinating. They started out with serial characters.
Yep.
And then it transitioned into, I think one of them was a fan of maybe the Joker or Harley Quinn or something like that. And then all of a sudden they were like, oh, what happens if we manipulate the shape and do it as popular culture? And then just they made a small series and then they sold out everywhere. and then it just became this huge corporate conglomerate. It's amazing.
I own a small number of Funko Pops,
Me too.
but I own them because they are. Well, they're yeah. Thanks to those. They'll give them at all the junkets. But no, just for like the holidays. So like I have like 3 for Halloween. I have a handful for Christmas, and I have a few others for sort of other times of the year. But that's kind of it. They're ornamental for me. But I do know people, certainly within our film community, who buy them, have them in the boxes, and stick them on a shelf. Yep. But I still don't see that as a movie. I've never looked at a display of Funko Pops and gone, I wish those could come to life.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Because they've already been to life in a movie.
And they also don't look that different.
No,
like,
they're all the same.
They all look the
That's
same.
why I look at
like
it.
It's like the face moves a little bit. Maybe there's like a little bit of artwork on the face or something.
Yeah.
I just look at it and again I say, why? Although Zeno brings up a good point. He goes, Simon, when are we getting Meet the Movie Press Funko toys? Hey, anybody wants to make a Funko toy out of me? God bless you.
You can actually get some of the Funko. I mean, I think it's like not the official ones, but you can get your favorite individuals or yourself made into these kind of Funko Pop type things. But trust me, you don't want me on a shelf.
Funko movie.
Let's talk about Jurassic World. This week, the short film Battle at Big Rock hit the internet. It's an 8-minute short where dinosaurs hit the mainland US, kind of picking up from where Jurassic World Lost Kingdom sort of ended up. You guys saw this week?
I did not actually watch it.
Okay, Demetri did.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It always... It was a pleasant surprise to see Colin Trevorrow directed it.
Yep.
He came back, and it literally picks up it's very shortly after the events in Last Kingdom.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. It's within that canon now, and we kind of have an idea where the next Jurassic World movie is going to focus on, but it was a lot of fun. For 8 minutes, it did a really good job.
I'll be honest with you, I enjoyed the short, but it's actually while the credits are playing that I think some of the best stuff in the short is, where they kind of have little snapshots from home videos and kind of news footage and stuff like that. That to me was like, oh yeah, this is the good stuff. Yeah. That's what I really liked. Yeah. So even though I enjoyed Battle of Big Rock, and it's available free, by the way, on YouTube, so you can check it out. I think it's being shown on a handful of screens this weekend. Okay. I know Colin's doing some screenings here in LA. Nice. Sort of he wants it to be seen on the big screen. But yeah, I mean, it did get me excited. I'm a big fan of the Jurassic World franchise. I actually had a really nice chat with Frank Marshall this week, which is great. So that's going to be going up on Forbes, and we talk about Jurassic World and the extension of the brand and things they're planning to do with that.
It makes me think more Jeff Goldblum, because he's the one that said at the end of Last Kingdom.
This next Jurassic World, I think is going to blow everyone's motherfucking minds. Yeah, I really do, because I think they're going to go all out for this movie. I think they're going to get most of the people back from the original movies. Yeah. And they're going to do something really kick-ass with the ending. I don't know. I probably shouldn't have this high of faith in the movie, but I do.
I think that's one of the reasons that Colin took a step back from the second one, was to make sure the third one was like, we're either going to go out with a bang or we're going to launch another series. And I think we're going to probably get the latter. A lot of people in the chat asking, Scott, how was TIFF? Very briefly, how was TIFF?
TIFF was a mixed bag. I would say that a lot of movies that I had very high expectations for did not live up to those high expectations. Movies that I had middle of the road expectations somehow rose above those movies.
Interesting.
Which was very bizarre. And then there was just the usual, watch it once and forget about it.
Fine.
Yeah. It basically makes award season that much more complicated this year. Yeah. Because I don't think there's been a lot of movies that came out that I would say, yeah, that's a clear winner for this.
Yeah.
I mean, the only ones that I think right now are locks is I think that Joaquin Phoenix for Joker is going to be a lock for one of the 5 spots for Best Actor. And Parasite is going to be a lock for foreign film.
Interesting.
That's really like the only one, and of course, like you said, Renee
for Judy.
Yeah, and
I
ScarJo.
I think Jojo Rabbit will get one of the 10 to 12 to 20 slots of this picture.
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. We're going to find out very soon. Let's talk about another story before we go into the reviews. New Halloween sequels are going to bring back all the characters whose lives were affected by the original movie, apparently. Demetri, you're a resident Halloween fan. Your thoughts on this?
Such a great idea. I mean, the comic books, the comic series did it. I just feel bad for the little boy who plays Tommy because they got the original actress who played Lindsay. I get Lindsay Wallace to come back, but they somehow skipped over the original boy, and I forget who they just hired for casting to play Tommy, to play Tommy Doyle. But it's such a great idea because we don't know how it affected them through the years. One clever thing about the Halloween 2018, there was a line of dialogue that said, when the kids were walking on the sidewalk and the boy said, he goes, I don't get it. He goes, kids are being killed left and right. We have all these shootings. He goes, Michael Myers killed a couple of kids and she got away. Like, what's the big deal? I think it was great in how they showed Laurie Strode. Now it's going to be very interesting to see how it affected these little kids and what their approach to it, like what became of their lives. And I think it's going to be very interesting that Michael Myers is going to come back and see these, people from the original 70s.
So start the story in the next movie and continue it in the one after, or work them one by one, do you think?
I would, since you let the cat out of the bag, I would say they should be in the next movie, and whoever makes it to the end of that movie is, we're going to
gets to the third one.
Gets to the third
kind of like a bloody relay.
Yeah. It's
a really deadly relay race.
Yeah, but I'm very excited. I mean, I think it's a great idea to go back to that well. Yeah. Because they never really were approached outside of the one that had Paul Rudd, who picked up that character.
That's correct.
And Curse of Michael Myers in that movie is just awful. But
I've actually got a soft spot for that movie. I know it's terrible, but I do have a soft spot for it.
I will say the producer's cut is a little bit better, but when you're already...
Well, that's like saying, do you want to be punched in the dick or the face?
That's true.
It's one of the two.
And that's a face.
That is true. Scott, your thoughts on this, bringing back all the characters whose lives were affected by the original movie?
I've always been a big supporter of showing the aftermath of an event. I think we were talking on Anatomy of a Movie when I did the 47 Meters 2 show with him, that I would have loved to see the effects that this movie had on the characters that survived. And I think it's great to kind of see that in a franchise like this that is so beloved.
Yeah.
That being said, I also want this movie to focus more on the daughter character that was introduced in the last Halloween movie, because I felt like it was almost like the passing of a torch, and I would love to see more of that explored.
And think about that too, because the daughter lost her dad, right? He was murdered by Michael Myers. They now understand. I think that family has a better understanding of Laurie Strode.
Yeah.
Right. So that to me, that dynamic, what they did with that first movie was a really good dynamic. The doctor they could have gotten rid of, but now that you're adding in these other characters, the original kids that she babysat for, that's interesting.
To not pick that up would be make it completely redundant in the first movie. It would be like nothing more than a MacGuffin, which would be a real waste.
Absolutely.
Which would be a real waste. Okay, some people in the chat. How would a Jurassic Park movie be with less humans? Just a fucking dinosaur movie. Yeah. I mean, that's just dinosaurs doing dinosaur shit.
Right.
Yeah, no, we need that. Yash, mostly from fans. Yash is referring to a lot of people don't want... okay, let me just scroll back up so I can get that comment. Talking about the humanization. Eon001. A lot of people don't want to humanize the Joker, but they don't mind seeing Hitler as a playful imaginary friend. I mean, that is an interesting topic.
Yes.
I mean, it's satire, and I think humanizing are very different.
Yes.
because Jojo Rabbit is not making Hitler a sympathetic figure or someone to be reviled. It's not using Hitler as an empathic or a counter-empathy figure. Whereas, obviously, with the Joker, you are meant to have someone who is a damaged, dark person. It's a very different take on a character. So it's kind of looking at a character in two very different ways. So I get what you're saying here, but I think it's really different. And then Yash is kind of saying, yeah, honestly, it makes no sense. Critics are such hypocrites. I don't think it's hypocrisy on the part of critics, because critics are just people who have an opinion like anybody else.
Yeah.
But Scott, you obviously have a take on this.
I mean,
you've seen both
you
movies.
You didn't see both, right?
I didn't see Joker.
Okay, so, all right, so I seen both movies.
Right.
And I was not blown away by Jojo Rabbit whatsoever.
Okay.
Because as much as I appreciate the heart and the anti-hate message of the movie, I feel like for someone of his talent, Taika, right?
Yeah.
Taika does not take enough bold choices with this film. It feels very conventional. It feels very like soft and very much for like the masses, and it just does not take enough risk. And when I watch this movie and I see this this version of Hitler, I feel like with all the memes and all the jokes that we've seen about Hitler over the years, this is not a fresh take. This is the Looney Tunes, the Saturday Night Live version of Hitler.
So kind of like the Charlie Chaplin and the Dictator.
Right.
Yeah.
Something that you've already seen before, and there's nothing really fresh or new about it. Therefore, it's not really risky or bold.
Right.
So, that being said, I don't think that this movie at all tries to sympathize with Hitler. So I will say that, as much as I'm not like selling this movie in any way. It definitely doesn't try to make him a human. It makes him a mockery, although just a generic version of a mockery that you've seen a dozen times before. Therefore, with the Joker, which I think a lot of people are like jumping on this fucking bandwagon with this movie without even seeing it, and it's pissing me off about it, is that this movie is such a different take on the Joker character that shows how we as a society, when someone has a mental disability, turn a blind eye. There are so many scenes in this movie where he's trying to be a nice person, where he's on a bus and he's trying to talk to a kid, and the person turns around, "What are you talking to my kid for?" He goes into a therapy office, and he's talking about how he's not happy, how his feelings are there, and all she's saying is, "Hey, you want some more pills? You want some more pills?" And he goes, "You're not even listening to me." I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, but what basically kind of happens to spark, I won't spoil it, what sparks the whole act of violence is basically because of some other person's negligence. They gave this person something that allowed for his violent streak to occur. So I think this is a very deep dive, and it says a lot about society, and I know a lot of people don't like to talk about that because it ties into the way we treat people, not only in humanity and real life, but also on social media. And I think there's a lot to take away from this movie. It is not a happy film, and it has very much remnants of King of Comedy, Network, and what was the other one I said? Taxi Driver. It's a very dark and angry film. Don't get me wrong. But it's very dense, and it was so engaging and so deep that I actually had to go back. I went to the public screening the next day and I saw it twice because I just wanted to suck it all in before I wrote my review.
I'm really looking forward to it. I'll be honest with you. It's one of the films that I originally this year was like, I don't know if we need this movie. I don't know what the point of this movie is, but I think it's certainly something that now intrigues me, and I think it's sparking some really important debate. But that's a really interesting point. Thank you for the comment in the chat, and thank you, Scott, for picking up on that and giving your viewpoint on it. Okay, let's take a look at box office before we talk about the reviews for this week. Downton Abbey grossed $2.1 million from Thursday previews. 2.1 million of old ladies.
And here you go, talking about the demographic again. Who probably went to see that movie?
Yeah.
Not the
Joker.
Not the 20-something. No, not the Joker.
Not the Joker fans.
Not the 20-somethings either.
Well, maybe not, but I think a lot of people underestimate the fandom of Downton Abbey. I really do. I mean, that show worldwide had, yes, it's almost like the Sex and the City of today. You had a lot of women, right? Well, and you had a lot of women, but a lot of people are they don't yet understand what its fandom is. And I knew that my wife loved it, and I loved the show. I never watched an episode, to be honest with you, but it gave my wife pleasure and solace and entertainment during recovery stuff. So she binged it. She loved it. After watching it, I understood why. But it is a broad appeal. A majority of women, but there's a ton of men too.
Yeah, a lot of guys. A lot of guys like Downton Abbey.
Like this serial.
There's something comforting, I think, about films like Downton Abbey that people really enjoy.
Yes.
You know, and I think Jodie's saying, "Hey, I'm not old. I love Downton Abbey." Newsflash, Jodie. I think you might be old.
Oh no!
I'm kidding. Just kidding. I'm actually going to go and see it tomorrow, which is great. But the thing is that I'll be able to race everybody to their chairs. Hey, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. They'll forget the movie once they've seen it. I'm just kidding.
Step over the oxygen tanks.
Step over the oxygen tanks.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, my God. They won't have their phones out, but you can hear the death rattles a mile off. I'm kidding.
Oh, boy.
I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Seriously.
Yeah.
Not really kidding. It looks like Downton Abbey's going to do 22 million this weekend. Who knew that Downton Abbey was going to come out on top over Rambo Last Bloods?
I did.
You predicted this, didn't you?
Two conversations this week, and I said, Downton Abbey is going to do really well. And they go, what?
Yeah.
And because of that fandom, and because the movie's good, and because, I'll just give a quick review. As a person who's never seen an episode, I didn't think I was going to like it. They wrote it like a movie. So you're introduced to the characters. You know their function within 10 minutes. Whether you've seen the show or not, you get it. And they introduce the plot almost immediately.
People are going to be down for Downton.
Boom. Yeah, I think so.
Rambo Last Blood is looking at 2 million, so it's going to be pretty close between Butlers and Bloodlust. It's Chapter 2 in third place, 19 million. I don't know who's going to see that movie.
I don't know.
Fuck's sake. Ad Astra, 19 million, going to be in fourth place by the looks of it. Hustlers is going to come up from behind.
Sixth or seventh for Ad Astra.
We will see. We will see. And Hustlers going to be 17.6 million in fifth place. Just coming on top of the of Good Boys at 2.5 in sixth place. So let's talk about Ad Astra first of all. I mean, all those figures, by the way, are from boxofficemojo.com, so they're not cast in stone by any extent, but they tend to be, pretty on the money. Let's talk about Ad Astra. It's a movie that I saw last week. I really enjoyed the movie. I think audiences are going to hate it. It's sold as an action space movie, and it is not an action space movie. It is a love story. It is a father-son story. It is very much like 2001. It plays almost Shakespearean in parts. I think audiences are going to walk out of that going, what the fuck? That is not the movie that I thought I was paying $17 to see. Guys, your thoughts on this?
Neither one of us seen it.
I have yet to see it.
You have not seen it?
I have not seen Ad Astra.
It's.
I mean, I want to. I'll probably see it Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, catch it while it's in theaters. I mean, Brad Pitt's performance is amazing. Yeah. He is superb in this, and it is one of the most beautiful movies I've seen this year. But as a movie as a whole, I think a lot of people are going to come out of that movie wondering why that was not the movie that they were sold in the trailers.
How would you compare it to, like, say, Interstellar, which kind of too had that. They marketed it one way.
No, I mean, this is very different to Interstellar. This is very much more like a Polaris 2001 than an Interstellar, and certainly not a The Martian. There are some moments of action which are really nice coders in this movie and take you, and there's some very intense excitement. But this is real. I mean, this is an optics movie. It's a sound design movie. Right. It's a performance movie. It's theater. I think Pete Travers from Rolling Stone said it was exhilarating or enthralling or something that gave the idea that this was an exciting action kind of movie. And I'm like, dude, I don't know what cut you saw, but this is I know people that saw this. I went to a BAFTA screening, and there are many people who came out of that movie, and they did not like that movie.
No.
It is not the movie that a lot of people are going in there expecting to see. But, you know, it's a movie that I really enjoyed, and I think it should get awards recognition this season. I just don't think audiences are gonna like what they get, because I think they've been sold something else.
I'm actually looking forward to seeing it just based on what you said.
But I think this is going to be another pure example of this disconnect that people have with critics. Because I think this movie is not made for the general public.
This is cinema.
Yeah.
It's cinema. It's not a movie.
You're right. I agree. I didn't even see it, and I agree because I've seen the opinions and how diverse they are. Like they're very different. And it's so fascinating to kind of see all these different viewpoints on this, because I think this movie is going to have a really big cult following, but it's going to bomb horribly. And it's going to be another one where, like, Fox is going to, like, take the hit.
Yeah.
Just like they're going to take the hit with Lucy in the Sky. And, you know, and then it's just going to be more of a convincing platform for Disney to say we don't want any more of these types of movies.
It's a great piece of cinema, and if you like cinema, I strongly suggest you go and see this movie. Right. But I think Joan and Brian in Nantucket, who get a babysitter for the kids to go and see a Brad Pitt movie.
They're very highbrow in Nantucket.
Yeah, but it's not going to be kind of what they're expecting. Also coming out this weekend, Downton Abbey, we kind of covered. Rambo Last Blood. Let's talk about that. I didn't get to see that this week. I couldn't make it fit in my schedule. You guys have seen Rambo Last Blood. Your thoughts on it?
It's set up very much. I think I was telling Demetri, like it's a very 3-act type of movie. First act is all story set up. Second act is kind of like the lead into what's going to happen in the third act, and then the third act is just like a fucking awesome bloody good time. I mean, really, it's balls to the wall. It's just. I mean, someone said online that it makes John Wick look like a kid's movie because of how violent and bloody it is.
Yeah.
It's like so over the top and ridiculous. But I will say, because I was thinking about it, you know, unlike the action movies like Dwayne Johnson or even Bruce Willis, where there's like this outrageous thing where it's one man with a gun. The thing about John Rambo is that at least you know his training and you know his history. So the way that he creates this whole world at the end of this movie, it's all because of his training. So it's not him just going up against all these people. He's actually setting military-style traps to do so.
That was one of my issues with the movie, because something happens earlier in the movie, and I'm like, you fucking just walked into that. Like, what did you do? Like, I don't want to spoil anything. The movie is an hour and a half. It's an hour setup for the last half hour of the movie.
Yes.
Right.
Rambo, to me, Rambo did have glimpses of the past Rambo.
Yeah, me too.
You know, he did. I mean, he's still suffering, but he's come to terms almost with his demons. And there's some really good dialogue between him and his niece, which I thought the relationship between him and his niece was fantastic. It's Sicario, it's The Equalizer, and then it's Friday the 13th.
It's Taken and Home Alone.
Well, Stallone alone. Which brings us back to the top of the show.
The movie's fun. It's only 90 minutes.
Yeah.
That to me is its wonderful saving grace. But so isn't Rambo First Blood Part 2 is only an hour and a half, and I like brevity. I'm still amazed that Stallone can get away with being believable. I mean, because he can put you down. And I believe if I was standing next to him, I'd be intimidated still. Like if he was Rambo, and when he lays out a punch, forget about it. Forget about the guns and the bows and arrows.
Yeah.
When he lays a punch on someone, I believe that person's going down like a sack of potatoes.
Okay, I think so. Sack of potatoes officially agrees in the chat. Rugged English, fun show. See you all again. Thank you, guys. Rugged English, a great example of why you guys are the reason that this show happens every single week. Lick My Love Pump. I can't wait to see Ad Astra. Great to have Brad Pitt in the chat today. Thank you so much for that. Guys, another great show. Thank you so much indeed. Demetri, who are you? Where can we find you, please?
Right here at Popcorn Talk Networks with the Movie Press, and also an anatomy of a movie. So, yeah, keep on the lookout. Thank you very much for having me.
Scott Menzel.
Sure, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at @TheOtherScottM. Tune into Film Critics Weekly at 11 a.m. today. We will be talking about award season, and it's the beginning of award season, so a lot of talk about award season, so stay tuned to that.
You can find me at Showbiz Simon on Instagram and Twitter. Thank you so much. 2 movies also out this weekend. 3 from Hell, Rob Zombie's new movie, which is, it's good. It's fine. Bloodline, it stars Sean William Scott. It's a Blumhouse movie. Seriously, you should check that shit out. Sean William Scott nails that as a guy who's completely insane. Very good movie. Check that one out this weekend. Thank you so much for being part of the show. Really appreciate it. We will see you next week.
Bye.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.